All right, bassheads. It is your boy once again, OG Sodda Pop Kid, coming to you direct with another video. I took some new pictures with the heat shrink on the amplifiers, man. I mean, yeah, this is something I need to do. Another basshead, Randall Ritchie, had pointed out before I had the heat shrink on them, some loose wire that was coming out of them, and it looked like they were touching each other because he shot me a screenshot. And thank God that, when I powered these amps up, if any of those strands were touching, they didn't arc out the amplifier. And I came down the very next morning and took care of it, man, and went on and put heat shrink on them. You know what I mean? But the reason why I didn't put heat shrink on them is because when I'm competing and they clamp test them, I'm not one that likes, not a big zero gauge back there. I will stick the probes in that big ass zero gauge, but I don't like sticking probes in my small wire. I just never did. Even though I have done it. I have stuck probes in them. You know what I mean? But I didn't like it. So what I usually do is I take the alligator clips, and I know some of y'all, with y'all, opinion, which you're entitled to, doesn't use alligator clips for various reasons why you don't use alligator clips. But I would usually use them, the big ones. First it would be the big ones sometimes, and I would take the big ones and clamp them around these, and I would put one this way and one the other way. But these are kind of close to each other. They are. But these pins here, the screws there, the socket set screws there, they're kind of a distance away when it comes to those little alligator clips. They're kind of a distance away. And those little alligator clips that I ordered, they're pretty strong and they're pretty tight. So when I put them on, I usually twist one to the side this way and one that way. You know what I mean? And I do not believe they're going to hop up off of there after a burp, because it's never happened before. Okay, and if they did hop off, man, maybe there's a 1 in a million chance they would hop towards each other if they came off. You know what I mean? So that's how I do it, and that's not how everybody else does it, man. So, I appreciate y'all concern. I do, man, you know what I mean? But, I was going to put up that post to thank my man Randall Ritchie for seeing something. You know what I mean, pretty much. And, yeah, these heat shrinks, they do look better. They're cleaner looking. And I usually don't do it on a speaker wire, usually. But I always do it on the power wire. I always do it on them, back there for sure. I always put heat shrink on them. No doubt. Those are heat shrinked. I do it every single time back here, because that's a whole nother story. Yeah, because when that arcs, it arcs immediately, like yesterday. So I keep them on the back there. You know what I mean? So, I could use the little alligator clips, and it's real quick. It's a quick thing to do. And I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and say, well, if you stab the probes in the wire, you might get a higher score and all of that. Probably not. You feel me? So that's just that, man. You know what I mean? But, you guys are concerned. You know what I mean, man? I mean, I'm not mad at y'all or nothing, man. It's just like one person will come up and say something, and then 5 more will come right behind him once they see the first person said something. And they'll all come behind each other, and I'm like, here we go, man. You know what I mean? But I wanted to show y'all that that's done. Okay, I didn't waste no time doing it either. And I'm down here because I have a BassHead story to tell y'all, because I have a good long-term memory and stuff I went through being a basshead and starting out with budget equipment and competing with budget equipment and winning with budget equipment. I come down here, and share this stuff with bassheads to inspire the new cats that's out there. Now, granted, the new cats, a lot of y'all new cats, y'all are up on these forums, like I said before, hearing stuff and watching what people are saying, but you never been in the lanes yourself, or you never tried out a certain product yourself. So some of y'all see certain guys bashing certain products, and you figure, oh, I'm not going to use that product even though you can't afford the better stuff. Some of y'all can't afford the budget stuff that they're talking about that they don't use, and a lot of guys that do have experience haven't used any of the stuff some of them are bashing, because if you were that experienced, you would be able to take that budget equipment and still do a 160, still, like guys like me did. You know what I mean? If you're that experienced, you could take budget equipment and still get high numbers off of them, and they still would last you. I mean, my power acoustic equipment lasted me. My Lanzar equipment lasted me. I was in the lanes with the Lanzar stuff and the power acoustic stuff, bro, and it lasted for years. I had the Q power, and I'll tell cats this 1,000 times, but it is what it is with some people, man. And those guys that like to do stuff like that, what goes around comes around. You reap what you sow. It's the same thing. They're going to reap all of that, the bashing people, because it's going to happen to them and other stuff. Like, there's going to come a time where they're not going to be able to afford any equipment, or they're not going to have any equipment. You know what I mean? And won't have it for years, man, on account of them talking about people too much. Okay? But anyway, like I said, these young guys go up on these forums and they, go back and repeat what they saw, but never experienced anything. You know what I mean? Them kind of guys, I'm just filming stuff, I'm walking around. Them kind of guys, man, kill me, man. They kill me. And it ain't that I worry about haters. I don't worry about haters. I just don't do it to people, and I don't like it done to me. I don't do that to people, man. I like to treat people the way I want to be treated. And if not, then I got choice words for a lot of them, man. I just got choice words for them. You know what I mean? They want to sit back and laugh and point. And this stuff was going on all while I was using, like, power acoustic. I had a bunch of clowns. Oh, yeah, and by the way, man, I don't use USBs, CDs, these old school iPods. That's 160 gig. I like using these. I got a few of these. I got one on the radio. In the barbershop, I got a second generation touch on my radio in my dance studio. Then I got an extra one of these just sitting on the charger in case one of these go bad. I like those because you can just stack music on them, like you probably can do USBs as well. And I remember going to Apple, right? The new generation people at Apple, it's funny. The new generation guys at Apple, I was in Apple. I have a Android, but I was in Apple with a friend that uses Apple, and I mentioned this to one of the clerks, and I was like, yeah, man, my iPod, and he looked at me like, iPod? I was like, yeah, Apple iPod, man. Like, and I started explaining them to him. He's like, I never heard of those. I was like, you guys used to sell Apple iPod. Apple said they're still around. You know what I mean? He's like, yo, man, I'm younger, man. Like, that's old to me. And I started laughing. I thought that was kind of funny, but I do understand. I was like, well, I'm always going to be using them unless they just don't have them no more. Like, you can still find them on Amazon and stuff like that. And I'll always search them down. Or there's some of you out there that have them, and they just been sitting in a drawer forever. And they just need charged. If you want to sell these, if any of you have these, you want to get rid of them, because I know people that have them sitting around and they don't never use them and haven't used them and don't want to get rid of them. Why don't you want to get rid of it? Why is it sitting around? And you want to sell them. If you come at me with a ridiculous price and I won't take them, you see that charge port? If it's all worn out and all loose, I will not take it. I will not buy it from you. Okay? Them batteries last for a while. I mean, those things is old. One guy sold me one. You know what I mean? It was free. So it was like a few years ago. They sold for $150, but I don't, think they don't mean that much to you. Then, I'm not trying to buy them for no price like that. Okay? So, let me keep this going. Man, I didn't have my charger on. My charger wasn't on for a couple of days. Down there. See that? That XS Power IntelliCharger. That's a 1415. That's a 15 volt, well, 14 volt, my fault. A charger right there, and it keeps that C-Max tip-top. For the last few years, if this C-Max dropped down in the low 14s, that will automatically come on, charge it up to 16.8 and shut itself off at 16.83. It's never failed me. You see that? I like that little thing. It's small and compact, and I have it mounted there. It's mounted right there. That's the spot. Boom. Yeah, these guys with this bass and stuff, man. And yeah, my man Randall Ritchie, he caught this, man, and screenshotted it to me, man. So I was thanking him pretty much for that, or I could have just, I just could have just thanked him right there on the screenshot and then kept it moving. You know what I mean? I try to let everybody know when somebody's doing something right or when somebody's helping you out, yada, yada, yada. And like I said, I don't know everything about car audio. I'm still learning. You'll be forever learning. You know what I mean? Like I said, I've been pop locking since 1981, and I try to explain it to a lot of y'all dudes, man. At my age, I've seen history repeat itself at least 3 times. When you get to that point, life is going to start being boring. When you done seen stuff come and go, then come back in style, then go out of style. Haircuts, dances, styles of clothes. I'm a barber. Don't you know I've seen haircuts go out of style and come right back in style, something I was doing before some of these barbers was even born? And I try to explain that. I am a walking history book. You understand me? And I'm talking about people basically in Pittsburgh, like the Pittsburgh barbers and dancers. You're looking at a walking history book. You should be asking me a lot of questions and learning stuff from me. I've seen stuff before you were born. I've seen other barbers before you were born. In the pop locking world, when this dance was coming about, back in the mid-70s and all of that, when we first started catching on to this like in 1980, back in Pittsburgh and all that, I was there. I battle cast. I've had experiences. We had girl pop lockers, female pop lockers that some of y'all should be asking me about. You know what I mean? But some cats are big-headed and all this, that, and the other. And in 20 years from now, I'm going to make this clear. There's sperm cells that's not even developed yet. There's going to be walking human beings in 20 years. And they're going to be people, and they're going to be into dancing and car audio, man. And they're not going to know anything about you either. And some of y'all is going to be butthurt. Some of y'all just moonwalking up the sky and spreading your cheeks to the moon and then coming down, back down to earth. They're not going to know nothing about any of that. And y'all going to be butthurt looking at me when I'm 80-something, talking about, man, these kids is disrespectful, OG. And I'd be like, that's just the way you were. What goes around comes around. Suck it up. Yeah, y'all should be asking me a lot of questions, man. What female chicks was real good back then? Who was this? Who was that? Who was that? Who was this? Some of y'all are ignorant, and I get it. I get it. You know what I mean? And just don't come at me raw, man, because you're not going to like what I say to you. If you come at me disrespectful, and what goes around comes around. I've been here since the foundation of that dance, since the foundation of stuff like this. Back when amps y'all never even heard of was out. And I like that Derek Wilskin guy. For the simple fact that he has a lot of tutorials on the old school amps like the Linear Power, the US amps, and those kind of amp, Blah Punk, and those kind of amps that was out back then, and Phoenix Gold. Amps that I knew about. I wasn't competing, but I did have Phoenix Gold and acoustic 460s and stuff in my car then. I did run Kicker. And I've been telling y'all about the free air subs. Some of y'all never heard of a Kicker or Rockford Fosgate free air. And Pyramid and all of that. I was running all of that stuff, bro. I just didn't compete. And instead of cats asking questions, say, man, this dude's a true OG. No, they want to bash and that. Well, you know, don't worry about it. It's going to happen to you at the best time, too. And I hope I'm there to hear it. I'll be laughing. I'll be throwing up laughing emojis on your thing, man. You're not going to find it funny, but I will. All right, now back to what I was saying. So I do watch Parker the BassHead. I do watch Jacob Viro. I do watch Derek Wilskin. And there's other guys on there. I have a real big playlist on my YouTube channel I have a bunch of playlists. I just make my own playlists and put in it what I want. You know what I mean? I have a pop locking playlist where I have a lot of videos, you know, and I have explained to y'all, football players watch football. Baseball players watch baseball. Wrestlers watch wrestling. Hockey players watch hockey. Pop lockers watch pop locking. Breakers watch breaking, get it? Yes, I watch MT Pop and Kite and Aki and all them guys. And some of them guys are considered OGs now. But some of us guys have been doing it longer than they've been doing it. So what's that make us? Double OGs. You know what I mean? Like Kite and Aki, they're probably considered OGs over there in Japan and China and all that by now. You know, YouTube didn't come out until 2002. And before that, before any of that, we couldn't go on. There was no social media. There was no internet in our time. It was harder for us to learn how to pop lock. Man, you had to be around that person all the time in order to pick it up. It was hard to pick it up unless you was around that person or they was actually teaching you. It was harder for us to learn. You get it? We struggled. Show respect. Period, man. Because I'm one to come at you, dude. And I'll come at you raw. You won't like me when it's over. I'm telling you. There's a lot of trauma in me learning all of this. I had trauma. Do you understand? Getting laughed at and all this, that, and the other. And I kept on going until I got better at it. I didn't let none of that make me quit. I just didn't like it. You know what I mean? I didn't like getting laughed at and that when I wasn't good in dancing and I was out there trying. I kept at it until I got better. Period. It's about getting better. Not getting better than someone else. It's about getting better. Get better. I want to be better than so-and-so. And then what? When you surpass so-and-so, then what? Where do you stop? Where do you stop? What's your limit after you're better than so-and-so? Is none. Just get better. Did you learn that? You learned that. Now I'm going to tell you this BassHead story. Because I have a lot of them, and I've told them on these tutorials. So watch them. Just watch them. Okay, first things first. All right, because this stuff comes back to mind. Because like I said, I got a good long-term memory. Sometimes I may forget something, an incident, and then it'll come back. You know what I mean? Some years ago, I was running 4 Soundstream T5 Tarantula subs. Not the X5s that I had a few years ago. The T5 Tarantulas. I was running them off of 2 Power Acoustic, SPL, all made by Soundstream. SPL FX1 5500D. Now, I told y'all that them amps did not do 5500 watts. The most you can get out of them, if your electrical is very good, like if I would have had this C-Max battery back then, I might have gotten 2500 watts out of those amps. But the most I got out of them using 4 Optima, either yellow tops or red tops, or back to the Duralast acid batteries. I had 4 batteries behind my seat. 2 on each side is what I had. I had nothing in the trunk. The trunk was a trunk. All right. I was getting about 1,875 watts out of those amplifiers at a half ohm. Okay. So I'm going to cut to the chase on when I started running a half ohm. Once I started running a half ohm, I always ran a half ohm. So I had 2 subs per amp, and I was trying to get to a 50 at the time, so it took me about 4 years to actually get a 50. Maybe not that long, maybe 3 years, it took me in competing. And I was doing 149 fives. I was only 5/10 away. And it was a matter of changing the frequency or something at the time. Like I was still learning, even though I was driving around with Phoenix Golds back in the day. I only knew about throwing something in and turning the amp up halfway and yada, yada, yada. That's it. Okay, but at this point, I was on 149 nines, and this is back when we used to get a lot of Mecca shows in Pittsburgh because Team Nuts, Ed Nuttall and his wife Nina Nuttall always threw Mecca competitions every single month down at their shop, or they would find other locations like the Spaghetti Warehouse down in the Strip District and places like that. Ed would find places. I wish he still did this. I do. But there was shows he was throwing down the Strip District at Spaghetti Warehouse, so I was at one. And there was this guy that showed up. Now, y'all gonna find this kind of interesting. There was this dude that popped up there. His name was Chris. Like I had just got to know him that day. He showed up, he had some beers up in him. You know what I mean? He showed up with a truck. I forget what kind of truck he had, but he had 2 Kicker 15s in it and a Kicker amp. It was a 2500 watt Kicker amp he had. And they used to have these corny meters that you would stick in the lighter that was not accurate at all. They would tell you that you're hitting way higher than you really was. You know, I didn't have one, but I knew of them. Okay, so he pops up down there. I was already there. I was parked. And he was going and looking in everybody's car to see what they were running. He seen I had the T5s in there, and he knew that was, you know, that whole company was Power Acoustic. He knew this much. You know what I mean? And when he looked in the car, he said, oh, the T5s, that's Power Acoustic. He would have something smart to say. So I was like, oh, man, this dude. So when I got to him face to face, he was telling everybody, I'm hitting like a 153. And I looked in his truck, and I was like, damn, off of 2 Kicker 15s, man, that's a darn good score. If he's in my class, he's going to take first place. I'm thinking this. And he kept bragging, I'm hitting a 150. As the day went on, his score started changing. I'm hitting at least a 151, at least a 150. You know, he kept talking, and he was pretty much telling me what I had wasn't nothing compared to what he had. And I was like, man, this dude got a big mouth, man. And he just won't shut up. And while he was out there, and he only had like one battery, he only had a battery under the hood, and he's demoing and demoing and demoing and demoing for people. And I'm like, well, I know this much. By the time it's time for him to get in the lanes, he ain't going to have no score, man. He's beating up his battery and his alternator. He didn't have no special alternator either. I was like, man, this dude got one battery, one. I was sitting there thinking. Well, lo and behold, he gets thrown in my class. Now, and in Radical X. I was always in Radical X. He gets tossed in my class. I don't know if he asked to be in my class because he really thought that he was going to beat me. It's funny. And he was like, to everybody, and look, he talked so much that the crowd was like, dag, Sodda, what do you think? What do you think, man? You think you can get him? And I'm sitting, I just smiled. I pulled a Steve Mick on him. I just smiled. And just shrugged my shoulders like, I don't know. You know what I mean? When the time came, the crowd gathered around. And I remember him saying, I'm in your class, man. And I shook his hand. I was like, good luck. And I shook his hand. And I kept it moving. This dude, man, this was funny. This was funny. We got in the lanes. Everybody crowded around. Because like I said, he bragged. He just ran his mouth, man. Everybody gathered around. It still was like, Sodda, what do you think? I shrugged my shoulders. I was like, I don't know. You'll see. Man, I said, you go first, genius. He burped a 143. And everybody looked at each other. I was like, that's what happens when you run your mouth, dude. When you don't know what the hell you're talking about. Or you got sound stream, they ain't nothing. You know what I mean? And 149.5. And everybody's like, oh, and started laughing. And I was like, bro, why don't you do about 2 or 3 more runs, man? That 150 gotta be there. It's gotta be there somewhere. If you wouldn't have been, maybe if you wouldn't have been sitting out there banging your doggone system continually and running your mouth, you know, maybe you would have got your 150. You know, that's a hell of a drop, though. And then he did it again. Lamp, lamp, lamp. And I was like, oof. Yeah, you know what happened? He got mad. He pulled out of the thing, did a donut. I mean, he did what? He laid tire and took off. I was like, and he's mad. He's mad. He was running his mouth. He's mad. He's mad, y'all. Unbelievable. The next time he showed up at one of them shows, this time he didn't have no beers in him. He was super humble. Hey, what's up, man? How you doing? I was like, oh, you're not running your mouth today. How you doing, man? You all right? Oh, yeah, man. I mean, I was, I had some beers up there. I was like, I know you did. Running your mouth, bashing equipment, man. Don't bash equipment. And this was some years ago. When was this? I ended up winning states that year. I ended up beating John Arabic. Technically, Estates was down at the same place, down the Spaghetti Warehouse. Yeah, because I couldn't beat John Arabic. He would always do a 150 at that time. and I couldn't beat him. I did a 149.7 at States and beat him. And once I beat him, it was over. He couldn't beat me no more once I beat him, because he used to kill me. He used to always show up out of Ohio and Columbus and beat me. And he would always show up there late. He would always show up there like 4:30 in the evening, right? You know, and they would still let him compete, but they started complaining about him. Yeah, he used to beat me all the time, but after that trip, nope. That was the end of that. You know what I mean? You finally got me, he said. I was like, yep, finally. And it kept on going. It stayed finally. You know what I mean? So that's that. But yeah, Chris started being a sales rep for Diamond Audio. If y'all remember Diamond. I remember him telling me, I'm a sales rep for Diamond now. I'm like, good, man. Good deal. I knew one guy that I knew around this area that ran Diamond. You know what I mean? And that's that, man. So that's the end of the BassHead Stories, bro. I just wanted to get down here and drop some knowledge on you dudes like I do. And before the end of this, remember I powered these up, y'all, and I played some music? I'm just telling you this. I'm not worried about it. I'm just sharing it with you. Well, earlier today, I go up, get a YouTube comment, and some dude comes on again with the hate. Yeah, the content was good, but your selection of music pretty much sucks. You know what I mean? I just looked at it, and I was like, man. I just went on. I was like, man, I'm not even saying nothing to this guy, dude. You know, these guys play what we want to hear. No, I'm not playing what you want to hear. I play what I listen to. And I was going to go back on and say, I play what I want, man. You know what I mean? I got ready to, but I didn't. I was like, no, I'm going to ignore him. I'm going to ignore him and let him say something else since he's been ignored. Because some people hate being ignored. I just looked at it and kept it moving. I was like, this dude come back and say something else, I'm just going to hit that hide button, click. You know, I was like, man, I ain't got time for this nonsense, dude. It's never ending. A kid probably, too. Now go on, dude. Get in the lanes and win. And be quiet. Play what you want. And put your nose up. Everybody's behind us playing what you want, dude. I don't care. I like dubstep. I'm versatile. I'm an OG. I've heard everything. And all this rebase stuff, that's stuff we was listening to back when you couldn't rebase it. You know what I mean? We was listening to what we was listening to already, man. You dudes y'all young. I'm walking history. You know what I mean? I'm not a monkey see, monkey do. I told y'all this, didn't I? I don't go around, oh, he's playing this. I want that song. He's wearing those. I want them shoes. Oh, he got glow-in-the-dark thongs with diamonds on them. I want some of those. I don't do that. I'm a trendsetter. I set my own trends, man. I do me. Get it? The Sodda Pop Kid has his own style. Get that? I may go back to the 320s, people. These are the 220s. These are the manufactured ones. They come at 220 or 240 already from Dodge. You know what I mean? But the 320s, I thought the 320s was bogging down my engine. That was what I thought. And no, they wasn't. Because it's the same reaction. These old school engines, when that moisture gets up in them, they act funny. But you know what I mean? So the 320s was making my electrical better. Like I could sit there and demo, and it would keep going back to 15.8. You know what I mean? With these, after a while, when they get hot, yeah, my voltage starts dropping. It starts getting down when I'm demoing. Half the depth when it's 90 degrees, that is. But the 320s didn't act like that. You know, so I may call up CES and talk to Tony and talk about 320, 370, something like that, and going back to them. You know what I mean? So I can get that, so I can power these amps up real good. But these alternators did do good on the slaps. They did do good on the 8 of these Stetsons. I did get 8,800 watts on the 8. All right, in September. I did, okay, people? All right, so it's your boy, the OG Sodda Pop Kid. Good morning, good afternoon, good night. Put up your comments on this video here. Peace.